So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Britishvolt, its collapse, and why I think it's heavily Brexit related. So UK battery startup collapses into administration. So UK battery startup Britishvolt, or British, if you're American pretending to be a British person, has collapsed into administration with the majority of its 232 staff made redundant with immediate effect. It's a nightmare. Employees were told the news at an all-staff meeting on Tuesday morning. The firm had planned to build a giant factory to make electric car batteries in Blyth, Northumberland. So ministers had held it as a levelling up opportunity that would boost the region's economy and support the future of UK car making. But Britishvolt struggled to turn a profit, ran out of money. Its board is believed to have decided on Monday that there were no viable bids to keep the company afloat. Plans for the £3.8 billion factory in Blyth were plans of a long-term vision to boost the UK's manufacturing of electric vehicle batteries and to create around 3,000 skilled jobs. So this is a huge loss for people in Blyth. This sort of job creation could really have helped boost the local area, but the company's collapse is not a surprise to me anyways. You have British car manufacturing dying. Who were they going to sell the batteries to? And that's a key question. The project was championed by the government ministers due to the area being one of the main so-called Red Wall seats to change hands from Labour to the Conservatives in 2019. Imagine living in the Red Wall and seeing this, like the big flagship project is dead, but it was doomed from the start. Industry experts have said the UK will need several battery factories to support the future of UK car making as pure petrol and diesel engines are being phased out. The issue is that British car manufacturing is incredibly low. There are global problems, yes, especially as we enter a recession. The main issues are that for UK car makers, who can they export to? The EU is tricky due to the rules of origins. Exporting to the US probably means tariffs because we don't have a trade deal. So where is the market for it? Combined with the US and the EU offering more and more subsidies to their car makers to help them compete. Like, why would you set up shop in the UK when you'll get nothing? An existing shareholder added, it's it's madness. I have been offering a variety of possible solutions. Falls on deaf ears. It appears to me that management wants the company to go into administration. A real shame, end quote. Maybe some of them knew the company was done. Like, it seems like they were happy to ride a wave of government subsidies, but struggled to get more private investors, which is what the government wanted for them. The assumption amongst industry analysts is that due to the weight of EV batteries and the expense of transporting them, they need to be located near to the car makers, hence the need to build them in the UK. And so this makes sense. Think about it. If you're a car battery manufacturer, you want the car makers nearby or as close as possible. For the most part, it would be the car makers who would deal with the cost of transport between the two. So you want that as low as possible. But the UK car makers are going, like they're leaving the UK, as I said. That need for local sourcing is amplified by the rules of origin. So this is Sky News reporting here, mentioning the bits that BBC won't. That local sourcing is amplified by the rules of origins provisions in the UK's Brexit deal, the TCA, with the EU that require 70% of a battery must be built in either the UK or the EU for the EV it powers to be sold tariff-free to the bloc. 4 in every 5 British cars are exported, and just over half of them are sold to countries in the EU. So the majority of the cars are built for export that we build. This is something Sky mentioned, not the BBC, which is shameful for the BBC, given that some of the parts of the electric vehicles come from outside the EU and the UK due to materials needed to hit that 70% figure. That was always going to be hard. I had a video that came out about it a few weeks ago. So Brexit to blame for collapse of Britishvolt, says ex-Tory leader. That is William Hague, I think his name is. He's saying it was down to Brexit. It is why Britishvolt was promised 100 million from the automotive transformation fund for the 850 million pound taxpayer-backed programme aimed at supporting the electrification of Britain's automotive supply chain. So they were promised over a tenth of the budget, but then still failed. Like, the money was given at certain milestones, which is good, but I think the question should have been asked about who they intend to sell the batteries to and how. The Labour chairman of the Commons Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy Committee said the government needed to do more to support the UK's electric vehicle industry. Darren Jones told BBC Radio 4's World at One programme, that's a tongue twister, there is a quote, there is a case to be made here in the UK for ministers and the government to be much more closely involved in delivering a successful battery manufacturing factory. If we want cars to be made in the UK, we're going to have to build electric vehicles and vehicle batteries here as well. So ministers need to roll up their sleeves, not just write checks, end quote. Given the state of the UK, the only way this is viable is if the UK pays huge subsidies to the battery manufacturers, or we will fall completely off the world stage of car manufacturing. Then you run into potential state aid issues. But Brexit has really helped kill off a promising industry for the UK, which would have been to manufacture electric vehicles, make the transition, and start selling cars abroad. The founders of Britishvolt were trying to create a £4 billion facility from scratch without the backing of a major manufacturer. What they did have was a vision, and they hoped they could surf a wave of political support and attract the necessary funding. So it looks like they were going to live off more socialism, maybe under the hopes that Johnson and Truss and those types would continue to fund the project because they're British. This clearly did not pan out. Sunak is just a Brexit version of David Cameron. They don't really believe in state aid, which shows why this company didn't continue to get money. But I don't think this venture was, thought out that well. They needed the backing of a major manufacturer, and they just did not have it. If one of the big manufacturers, if like a Jaguar Land Rover or Nissan or one of these major companies, or even these major parent companies said, "Oh, we're going to manufacture X amount of cars in the UK. We need this amount of batteries per year to fuel the manufacturing," then I think Britishvolt might have been okay. But I don't think they got those sorts of big orders. And the question is, again, is who were they planning on selling the batteries to as UK manufacturing continues to die and OEMs continue to leave the UK and go to the EU or go to other countries? What was the plan here for Britishvolt? That's what I don't understand. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.